Analysis. Let's give that some love. What does it look like and why do we even need it? Well, hey, fellow music educators, it's a fantastic day and welcome to another powerful and inspiring Ultimate Music Teachers Live show. I'm your host, Glory St. Germain, and joining me today is my fabulous co-host, Joanne Barker. Joanne, how are things with you today?
Hey, things are great today, and I'm ready for some musical detective work. One of my favorite topics, Glory. This topic's one that I absolutely love, and I know our fellow music teachers do too.
Yeah, absolutely, Joanne. So today we're going to dive into the world of analysis. What does that look like? Why do we need it? It's not just a fancy word that we kind of throw around, but it's really an essential tool in every musician's and every music teacher's toolkit, right, Joanne?
I think so. It's analyzing music is the key to unlocking deeper understanding, not only about compositions, but about performances. It's about asking, how does the music work? How does it create the emotion, the theme, or the story? When we start asking these questions, we can make informed teaching decisions and guide our students. And think about those little beginners. We've got to teach them how to find the clues, because if there's clues to use the clues, and the clues are right there on the page. So we need to encourage that right from day one.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really does help our students, go to that next level as a musician. So let's break it down. What does musical analysis actually look like? And we invite our viewers to share in the chat. What are your thoughts? So I think musical analysis is, as you said, Joanne, it's like becoming a detective. Whether you're analyzing a Beethoven sonata or a pop song, it's really peeling back the layers of the music to see how does it work. For example, we look at melody, we look at harmony, we look at the rhythmic elements, and we look at form. And how are all of these elements structured? And why does the composer use them in the way that they do, right?
I'm sitting here smiling because one of my favorite stories I tell my students is when my teacher at university gave me my list of books to go by, and one was a 12-page Haydn sonata. And I sat down and just played note, 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 note. And about 6 months later, realized, hey, this same thing's happening over here, and this same thing's happening down here. If only I'd analyzed that music and been given the tools to analyze that music, my work would have been so much easier. And, it's not just about classical music. It's about jazz. It's about pop music. It's about rock music. I've got a few students who are playing in church praise bands, and they get the music a week before. So to be able to analyze that, to look for the structure, every single piece of music has a unique way of communicating those emotions and ideas, and to have the tools to know how to look for those clues, it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah, it really does. It's just kind of like putting the pieces of a puzzle together, right?
Totally.
I want to share a quick story, and I love to share this story because it's a story about my daughter, Sherry. She's a professional musician and music producer and plays multiple instruments. And I remember when she was young and she analyzed everything growing up. She would listen to my brother-in-law, the great jazz guitarist, Lenny Breau, renowned as probably one of the greatest ever. And Lenny Breau, so he was really a genius. And he would take these intricate jazz piano licks and then he would play them on his guitar. So what was interesting is that this is what Sherry would do. She would listen carefully to Lenny Breau, right? She would analyze all of his licks, and then she'd take Lenny's guitar licks and she would play them on the piano. So this cross-genre, cross-instrumental analysis gave her such a deep understanding of not only jazz, but also, how it works across instruments. And I think that's one of the keys that we really need to understand as music teachers.
And that curiosity just inspired such a passion in her to do it. It wasn't like, oh, I have to translate this. She's like, I'm curious. I want to translate this. So that's where when we start giving the students the gift of analyzing, that curiosity gets developed. And that's when the learning really gets exciting. It's not just about having a score in front of you. It's about analyzing things that we hear. I remember after my first year at university, actually it kind of took a bit of the joy away, because everything I heard from a commercial on the radio to a TV jingle, I was analyzing the chord structure constantly. So it can be something you hear or something you feel and something you want to try to replicate. Like, how many of us can sit down and play. I remember coming back from Vegas the first time, and I'd heard Elton John's Your Song at the Bellagio Fountains. And I sat down at the piano and went, and out it came. It just came out of my fingers, but without the knowledge of chord structures and all that stuff. It wasn't just magically my fingers played it. So that's one way we can uncover new ways to approach learning our instruments in any style. But we need that curiosity, we need that creativity and the ability to analyze.
Yeah, 100%. It's just the key. So when we think about, why do we need to analyze music? I think the why is that analyzing music gives students a deeper connection, with the material that they're learning. And as you said, Joanne, they're not just playing notes, they're understanding why those notes are there, how to create a specific emotion or an atmosphere, how do they work together? And it brings us joy as musicians when we're playing it. And it also brings the listener joy, right? Because they have a deeper understanding as well.
Completely. And it goes beyond just understanding the music. It also encourages critical thinking. I've been teaching for a few years now. And when I see little ones, I had one in a class last night, actually a little brother of a student who was watching because it was an online lesson. And you could see him sitting there going, We were using little cards to identify different keys. And he figured it out. So this curiosity and the critical thinking, and it's like, you can pretty easily tell early on in a student's lesson life if they're going to like math, because the two go together. But for those ones who struggle a little bit with the process, all the more reason to have them in music lessons, because we want to develop that critical thinking. It's not just about playing the piano. It might be about performing a knee surgery. I have a student who's an orthopedic surgeon, a former student. We have students who are school teachers. We have students who are engineers, right? So we want to give them the gift of critical thinking. Why did the composer choose this chord? Or how does the rhythm change the mood of the piece? These are all critical thinking skills that we're giving our students. And this critical thinking opens up so many avenues for musical interpretation and interpretation in life too.
Yeah, absolutely, Joanne. And I think analysis is, as you said, it's about creativity. It's about being a detective. It allows, and I think students love that word, right? Ooh, let's play detective. It allows students to explore different interpretations, to try something new with their phrasing, or even to reimagine a piece altogether. Something that I remember doing with my students that they always thought was fun is that I would say, we'd analyze the piece, and then I'd say, now I want you to do everything we do. We call it backwards day. And we would do everything opposite, backwards to what we would see on the page, just to see, how did that make you feel, right? What was that? How did it change things for you? An analysis, it's powerful to give students that freedom to express themselves while grounding their choices and understanding the musical structure itself.
Totally. It's like having a roadmap, right? Some people don't like roadmaps. They just use GPS, and sometimes they drive into places they shouldn't drive into. And so, once you know the layout of the music, I'm old school. I love studying that paper map the night before I'm going somewhere, and I jot down a few important milestones along the way. And that's all I need to get there, because I've studied the roadmap. So if you study it, if you analyze the music first, like I said about my sonata, that was 12 pages of long time learning could have been really reduced a whole lot. I still love that piece today. It's beautiful. But I've been given those tools. Once you know that layout, the music, you can take your students on a journey where their understanding just goes so much deeper. If that one, for instance, had one spot, I remember it so well now, that you held a note for a quarter note in one spot. And when that repeated, you held it for an eighth note. Like, that's a big deal, right? But so if I hadn't stopped and analyzed those two separate that they're the same passage, played slightly differently, right? So it's so important to give the kids, their students, that adults or kids, that the gift of learning how to analyze and to understand why it's so important. Because as teachers, it really helps us guide them a lot more effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. My daughter Sherry's absolute love for analysis. It wasn't just about following the rules, but she actually learned how to break the rules. And as I said, she would analyze Lenny's guitar playing. And then instead of just copying what he did, she would bring it to the piano and add her own twist. And I think that's what got her on her way to composition and to to really, seeing what was possible through music. And that's what analysis does. It gives you that foundation to build something new entirely, something new, uniquely yours. So we want to think, analyze, and then be creative with it, right?
Exactly. And it's so exciting for students when they start to analyze music, they realize they have the power to make creative choices. And we'll just put a little caveat there that there's a time and a place for everything. One of my favorite sayings in my studios is just because you can doesn't mean you should. So we're also giving our students the gift of discernment. Like if you're preparing for an exam, you want to prepare for an exam. If you're preparing for a performance at a recital, have the creativity. So we're giving them such amazing life skills, such decision making, because it's not always appropriate to go off the map, and sometimes it's more than appropriate to go off the map. But how do they know when to do that? So for Sherry, who's this creative performer, go for it. But if Sherry was doing an associate level exam, you pretty much got to play Beethoven the way Beethoven's played, right? So we want to give the students that gift of creativity and discernment through analysis, because they're no longer just playing. We want them to craft their musical voice and to know when it's appropriate to do which.
Yeah, absolutely. So true, Joanne. So as we wrap things up, for all of you amazing music teachers tuning in, I know you already analyze your music because you're obviously an educator. So the question is, how often are you sharing that process with your students? Are you bringing them into that world of exploration and discovery?
Right. Sometimes we forget that what seems obvious to us might be a total revelation to our students. We understand the language, they're learning the language. So even spending a few minutes breaking down a melody or a chord progression can open up so many doors for our students.
Yeah, it's so true, Joanne. And analysis doesn't have to be complicated or reserved for these advanced students. We talked about changing the word analysis to being a detective. Even beginners can start with simple questions like, oh, what happens to the melody here? Right? And help them with their critical thinking. How did the dynamics, change the feel of this section? Those small steps lead to really big insights. So here's the big takeaway for everybody today. Analyzing music helps students think critically, understand deeply, and express creatively. So as teachers, it helps us guide them on that journey. And if you're ready to dive deeper into this process and want to join the community of passionate educators, we've got something special for you.
We sure do. We invite you to join us inside the Ultimate Music Theory Teachers Membership at teachumt.com. In this community, you're not only going to get the tools to help you analyze music and teach it more effectively, but you'll also get access to courses, coaching, and a community that will help you grow your teaching business with productivity and profitability, and maybe the ability to kind of analyze where you are in your journey as a music teacher.
Yeah, I love that, Joanne. And, you don't have to do it alone. I remember when I started, I was pretty much, the lone wolf just out there trying to figure everything out on my own. And it was a difficult challenge. And it's why we created this incredible community for you. We have music educators from around the world. And the Ultimate Music Teachers Membership is designed to help you learn, to plan, to teach, and to grow so you can build the music teaching business of your dreams. So head over to teachumt.com today, get started, and we're here to support you every step of the way.
Absolutely. Whether you're just starting out or whether you've been teaching for years, there's always something new to learn. My philosophy is the day I stop learning is the day I stop teaching. So we want to keep learning for a really long time. And the community is here with all those great ideas. And somebody might say something someday that'll just spark a thought in your mind that they didn't even know they were going to spark for you. So we're here to help you succeed. And not just Gloria and I, but the community. There's such a supportive group of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Joanne, for joining me today. And thank you for all of our music educators as well. We hope you've been inspired to dig deeper into your musical analysis and to bring that excitement into your teaching, because remember, every piece of music, it has an opportunity for discovery. And every student is waiting to uncover their own musical genius.
And that's right. So we'll see you next time on the Ultimate Music Teachers Live Show. Until then, keep teaching, keep growing, and keep analyzing.
You bet. Thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, teach with passion. And remember, teachumt.com, and we'll see you inside the community. Bye for now.
Bye.